Hey everybody, welcome to episode 3 of our Thunderbird Motorola T6SMS restore. What do we have here? Well, we've taken the unit, we've blown it all out, got all the dirt out of there, and I found a piece of history inside this thing. And here it is. Here's an old piece of 8-track tape. I wonder what's on here. Could it be the Beatles, the Beach Boys, Engelbert Humperdinck, Frank Sinatra? Who knows? 1966, it could be just about anything. The Four Seasons, I don't know. I wish I could find out, but it's pretty old. But it's been chewed up, mangled, and almost hard as a rock inside there. So we have a little bit of history right there. So what have we done so far? We've taken off the belt. The belt is no good, and we can show you that. This belt is pretty ragged. I wouldn't expect it to be good anyway. And we've also removed this flywheel. This is the flywheel that attaches to the motor. So I want to show you how we took it off, and then I'll show you the wheel and why we need to pay attention to it. So the wheel actually attaches right here to this mechanism. We'll zoom in so you can see it. And there's a cotter pin that goes right through here that holds the wheel in place. So let's turn it over. We'll remove the wheel. I've already taken the pin out. Okay, and I have the pin taped underneath so we don't lose it. And you'll see how this shaft works. The pin actually, as it's in the shaft, this pin sits in here like this and holds it in place. That's all it really is. And the belt is what spins this thing. Okay? And there's a bushing here that has to be cleaned. But I also noticed, see all that? That's from the belt. It comes off. I've actually taken a section of this right here and just loosely cleaned it. And it does come off, but we need to get this thing smooth, right? Because we don't want that belt getting ripped up when it works. So we're going to need to clean up this flywheel for sure. We've got a little bit of rust up here, which we'll put some rust protector on there and get rid of that. And we'll have to clean that up. But by removing that, it opens up the whole 8-track here for me. And I can see a lot more than I could see before. So here we have a micro switch that we're going to have to test. We also have a switch here, which is the switch that engages our 8-track. Right there. It's a switch that turns off the radio, goes to 8-track. And then we have our playhead right here, and we have a lot of rust down here. This motor also looks like the belt was riding really low, and it actually gouged a little path in here, which is unfortunate. You can probably see that. Not a big deal. So we'll have to figure that out and see if we don't even know if the motor's good, honestly. But we're not close to that yet. I'm still waiting for a couple of parts to come in for our board. So here's our board as it stands. So once I get the parts in, I'll put all these parts in and repopulate this thing. And then we'll be able to take it for a test. But the thing that I was able to do is determine the correct speaker leads. So that's what I want to show you next. So let me get to that, and we shall be right back. Okay, so before we measure anything, I want to show you on the schematic what we're going to be measuring. So this radio slash 8-track player has 2 channels, obviously. There's a left and a right speaker. And here's the left channel, here's the right channel. And when you look at the schematic, you'll see here's our speaker plug right here. One wire goes off to an output transformer for the left side, and one wire goes to an output transformer for the right side. And then one wire goes to ground. So if we look carefully at the schematic, and we're going to zoom in and show you, you'll see that we're looking for 1.2 ohms right here. And the same thing is true on the other side. So theoretically, if we put our meter between here and ground, we should get 1.2 ohms on both sides. That'll tell us if the output transformer is correct. Now we know just from experience that output transformers are not always accurate, so it may be a little bit more than 1.2, but it'll be in the ballpark. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take our negative lead of our meter and put it on the actual chassis of the radio. Now we're going to take our speaker lead right here, and we're going to put our meter on ohms, and we're going to see what we measure on each one of these sides. We'll start right here. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to put the negative side, or the negative side of our meter on the chassis. We're going to set our meter to ohms, and we're going to check each side of the speaker connector. So let's do that first. So let's try this side first. Let's see what we get. Right here we're getting 1.7 ohms. Great. That's a good thing. Let's check the other side. Okay, what you just witnessed was myself getting confused and frustrated about this, about these speaker connections. So I was trying to figure out, like, why am I not getting 1.2 ohms here on both sides? I'm only getting it on one side, right? So I went a little bit crazy. So what I did was, I did some measurements. So on the back of the radio here, we have an orange, a purple, and a white, and then we have the chassis. So I did some measurements from the orange to the chassis, which is, I think, my left. Then from the white to the chassis, which is my right. You see what I'm getting here? I'm getting 1.6. It's supposed to be 1.2. On this one, I'm getting 9.3. Like, what the hell? Then I went from purple to the chassis, 0.8. And then I did some other measurements from orange to purple, which is 2.6, and purple to white. So pay attention to this one right here. 1.6 and 0.8. So from orange to the chassis, we get 1.6. And I want to show you this for a reason. So we're going to put our meter on. Here's our orange. We're going to go from orange to the chassis. 1.6. Now we're going to go from purple to the chassis. Purple is our common. That goes to both speakers. Hold on. .1. All right, that's fine. Let's take a look at this chart here, at the schematic. You'll see on one side we're supposed to be getting 1.2. Okay, we got 1.6, close enough. Here we're getting 0.8. We're supposed to get 0.8. I was getting 0.1. I'm okay with that for now, and I could show you why in a moment. When I do the same thing on the other side, though, I'm getting these wild numbers. And I'm pulling my hair out going, if the output transformer, which is what these are, right here, these are the output transformers. If the output transformer was bad on one side, it would usually be open. I wouldn't get a reading. I wouldn't get a reading of 9 point something ohms. So I decided to do a little bit of experimenting and started poking around in there because you can't get to anything. And then all of a sudden the reading went to 20 ohms. I'm like, what is going on here? So I just did this, so I want to show it to you. So here is here's our output transformers right here. Okay, this one is the good one. This is the one that's giving me a problem. You can see there's no room to do anything. So what I had to do was crack the chassis. Okay, I had to take the screws off and crack the chassis so I can take a look underneath. And I want to show you what I found when I did that. And I'm going to have to shine a light in there, I think, because you're probably not going to be able to see it. Let me get my flashlight. We're going to put our flashlight in there, and we're going to try to zoom in all the way. Sorry for the bouncy camera, but I want you to see this. Okay. See that white wire? That's the wire that goes out to the radio, to the speaker connection. And I want you to see this. Let me put my flashlight in there so I can see. Okay, here it is. Look at this. The wire is not soldered correctly. I think it may have broken, or it was never soldered. It was wrapped around there all these years. I have no clue. But all I know is that if I measure from the lug of this transformer right here to the chassis, I get 1.6, which matches the other side. So I was thinking I had a bad output transformer, but I don't. I have a bad solder connection. Makes me wonder if this radio ever worked. I don't know. So in the meantime, I had to do some surgery and remove this board right here. And it's okay because it has some capacitors on it. Let me show it to you. There's a couple of caps right there. And if we look at them, let's push down on this a little bit. If we look at the caps, you'll see that there's crap coming out the top of these too. So we're going to replace those caps while this board's lifted up. And we're going to fix that wire, and then we should be able to measure our speakers correctly. So I thought immediately this thing was a lost cause. It's not a lost cause. We can fix it. We just need to solder that wire in there, and I bet you it works great. So I'm going to fix that wire, and I shall come back to you. And we're going to do a measurement again when I come back. Okay, wire's been soldered. Let's get a little more light here. I think you can see the meter. So we're going to be testing this orange wire and this white wire. So we're going to go from the orange wire to the chassis. 1.6 ohms. That's what we expect. Let's try the white wire. Here's the big test. 1.8 ohms. I'll take it. Close enough for rock and roll. Then we're going to take our common. 0.2. Great. So I now know that my speaker connections are going to be good. And what happens on this radio is they actually go through these two power drivers. There's one here and there's one here. And I'm going to be replacing these. These are germanium transistors, which are known to have problems. I don't know if these are good or bad. I haven't tested them yet because I haven't powered the radio up yet. But we're definitely going to be replacing these. We're also going to be replacing these caps here like I told you. And then an update on this flywheel. This is the flywheel that I took out, and you'll notice that there's still some pitting here, but it's much better than it was. So what I ended up doing on this is I soaked it in some WD-40 to get the residue from the rubber band that was on it stuck on there for years and years and years. And we cleaned it up. We got it as smooth as we can, and then we put a little bit of 800 grit sandpaper just around it just to smooth it out. It's actually in good shape now. We can probably put it back in. I've also cleaned off the cap stand right here. There was a really shiny component here that was part of it. It really needs to be roughed up a little bit, so I did use the sandpaper there, and it looks much better. I didn't go too hard. I don't want to create any gouges. I just want something that's going to grip the tape. So, so that's done. So we're still waiting for our capacitors to come in for this and for this. So we haven't made any progress there. Hopefully they'll be here this weekend. So the plan again is get those capacitors replaced, get the capacitors replaced in this board right here, and do our first power up test. That's going to be the plan. So that's the news, guys. That's the plan right there. And I think, you know, we also need to change these caps here. These are 500 microfarad caps. Here's a 2000 right here. It's really still a recap job. And then the real effort's going to be cleaning out this 8-track section. You could see it's just dirty and disgusting and really needs a lot of attention. There's some de-rusting that has to happen in there. For example, right here, we've got some rust. that we can scrape away, and we'll put some rust reformer on that. We're not going to attempt to take this apart. We'll put some rust reformer on it so it doesn't continue to grow. We'll grease, lube, test all these switches. There's a micro switch here. When you put a tape in, it forces this little lever. There's a lever down here somewhere. That when you put a tape in, it'll engage that switch. And then there's another lever right here. Right there. And that's the switch that turns off the radio and turns on the 8-track. That switch is sticky, so we're going to have to put some deoxit in there and clean it out. Then we'll clean our playheads, and we'll be able to do a test. Okay, that's essentially where we are right now. So we're really kind of in a holding pattern. There's really not much more I could do here. So we're going to have to wait until the capacitors come in. But I wanted to show you the troubleshooting that we did here on this on the speaker connections, and we now understand what they are. Orange and white go to each side, and then this purple one actually does split into two and goes with each side of one of these. That's how it works. And I think I've explained the power to you as well, and if I haven't, I'm going to show you right now really quick. So here's how the power works. There's a blue wire and a black wire. The blue wire is for the light bulb that's in the radio. It goes to your instrument cluster, right? So essentially, there's 12 volts that go to this wire, or come from this wire that goes to your instrument cluster, and then the 12 volts for the radio comes in here, plus 12 volts. That's how it works. So this is the radio power. This is for the light bulb. This lets you dim it, etc. with the dash. So that's how that works. All right, I'm going to end this video here and put this one up real quickly because I'm not going to have an update here for probably a week or so with the parts delivery and Thanksgiving. So anyway, I hope everybody has a great Thanksgiving, and hopefully this is informative for you. If you have any questions, leave it in the comments, and I'll do my best to answer them. Until then, we'll see you.